What's going on, y'all? Today we are going to talk about how to use your voice to take charge so that you can get what you want faster without burning bridges or making a mess out of things, so that you can be assertive without being aggressive. Mistakes that I have made many times over in my life. So, first and foremost, there's a series of tactics that you can use to use your voice to take charge. And I'm going to quickly list those out here. But the bulk of what we're going to talk about today is the higher level, more zoomed out identity level stuff that you can use to use your voice to take charge. Because tactics, or what some people might like to think of as hacks, are surface layer, not lasting. They don't address the root of the problem. And that's really what I'm interested in as a person on the path, as a student of the craft or of various crafts. I'm more interested in getting to a holistic and total understanding of something, to the principles, to the essence, so that I can have the greatest vantage point from which to apply what I'm learning. And tactics and hacks, relying solely on them, don't give you that. So, real quick, the tactics of using your voice to take charge, which largely come from the 7 skills of tonality. Number 1 would be speaking with high vocal energy. This is based in tonality training skill number 1, resonance. It's a balance of chest and head voice. Really what it means is using your natural speaking voice, which means that vocal fry, enemy number 1 of the convicted and certain voice, vocal fry becomes impossible. Dying at the ends of your sentences becomes nigh on impossible. I believe that's the term I'm looking for. Number 2 is that asserting yourself, believing that asserting yourself is a right. And it's a good thing. It's not an imposition. This comes from tonality training, or the 7 skills of tonality. Skill number 4, mindset. I've mentioned this before. An easy example of this is looking at cold callers who believe that when they pick up the phone to call whoever is on their list, they're like, I'm bothering them. No, they don't want to hear from me, etc. As opposed to, hey, this is going to be the best thing that you've heard all day. You're going to thank me later down the line when this sales cycle is over and complete and we are implemented and you are utilizing what we're selling. You're going to thank me for calling you. Next is knowing what you want and knowing where you're going in a conversation. This is intention skill number 5. And this is the micro intention in this skill of intention. The macro, the meta, the more zoomed out one that you've got to have is wanting somebody to win more than you want to be validated. That underlies all communication. Right? Why are you opening your mouth? Because you want somebody to win. You've got something to say that's going to be helpful. But knowing what you want and where you're going, that gives structure, that gives more certainty, more confidence in the conversation, helps you to not lose your train of thought. And it's got to be specific. It's got to be action-based and specific. So it's not, I want them to have a good time. I want them to feel happy when they're done talking to me. It's, I want them to say, yes, we need a meeting yesterday. We need to explore this yesterday. What's the soonest time that we can get together to look deeper? You want them to raise their hand and say, me, I'm in. I want that. The more specific, the clearer the action for this intention, the better. Then, in order to use your voice to take charge, you want to speak in such a way that you can stop making statements sound like questions. This comes from the skill of subtext, tonality training skill number 6. If you're making a statement and it sounds like a question, that's weak. We don't want to be weak. It's difficult to take charge when you're weak. If you're making a statement and it sounds like a statement, that is certain. That sounds like you have certainty. That sounds strong. It takes strength to take charge. Next is being more expressive, or having conviction, or not being afraid of emotion in your communication. This comes from the 7th skill, stakes. If the stakes are low, difficult to tap into emotion, difficult to have a reason for emotion to be present and to channel and come through your voice. Your voice tells the world who you are. So when we have all of these skills dialed in, leveled up, what we're telling the world is that we are somebody who knows what they want, is able to listen to others and be mindful of others and what they need, and who knows where they're going and who is going to get it and is deeply committed to getting it. There's a reason, there's a purpose, there's a drive. If you're not letting emotion come through your voice, if you're not being expressive, we lack that major piece. Makes you sound like a robot. This doesn't mean that you lose emotional control. It means that you are being expressive. There's a difference. Being emotional and losing emotional control, two totally different things. Human beings are emotional creatures. We make decisions emotionally and then justify later with logic. So it's this idea, which I think comes from the pop stoicism, where the interpretation is such that I have to be locked down and serious all of the time, and I get married and I don't smile, and my dog dies and I don't cry, and I see nothing, just constant poker face. Like, no, not at all. Forget the distilled, watered down interpretations of Stoic texts and go read the source, at least the translations, for yourself. It's understanding that you are going to die someday. Meditate on that and be in control of your emotions. And when you're in control of your emotions, then you can express them in a way that moves you forward. You can let them come through your voice in a way that compels people to feel you. The next tactics would be to speak more slowly. This is one of the most common notes that you hear to actors, even experienced ones. Hey, slow down there. The pace of speech that we use in casual conversation is often much faster, much more rapid than it is if you are listening to a podcast, to a video, to a speech, to a presentation. And speaking more slowly not only allows for your listener to keep up with you and to comprehend what you are saying, but it also allows for you to stay calm and stay present and remove filler words from your vernacular. It also becomes easier to remove filler words from your vernacular when you embrace silence, when you are comfortable in a natural pause or silence or lull in a conversation. Some of the reasons that people use filler words is because they are anxious. They are trying to let their mouth catch up with their brain or move at the rate of their brain. And because they simply don't know what they are seeking to say. All right, so those are the tactics. Now, let's get into the problems, right? What are the problems that we see around voice and communication? Why are we not taking charge? Why are we not using our voice to take charge? First and foremost, you believe that your voice betrays you or doesn't represent the best version of you. How many times have you listened to yourself on a recording and gone, oh my God, do I sound like that? Oh. Or you have an experience where you think something, you feel something, and then you move to say it, and it just does not come out as planned. For worse, more often than for the better. So you hate how it sounds, or you have found your voice to be unreliable or unattractive. It's hard for you to be understood or taken seriously, or both. Perhaps you are in your head while communicating and being with others. Another problem is that you don't think that you have anything of value to offer. Or if you do, you don't know how to shape it up so that it's compelling. And these problems, they build on one another. So if you have found your voice to be unreliable, or you hate the way that it sounds, and you don't think that you have anything of value to offer, well, then you're definitely not going to be using your voice to take charge. The third problem is that there's a fear around putting yourself out there. This could be fear of judgment from others or a fear of failure. Either way, it results in no action. And this becomes particularly sticky, tricky, nefarious, because you're telling yourself that you want to do something, that you have these ideas, these aspirations, these plans, you believe that they will work, and then you don't do anything with them. Maybe you see somebody else take action on them because ideas are not really ours. Our ideas are in the ether, the universal consciousness. And if we get one, it just means that we are tapped in. We are on that frequency that receives that idea. Somebody else is also receiving that idea. So if they are able to courageously face these fears and have these skills where they can shape up what the value is and get it out there, and they have the skills that allow for their voice to come across consistently and reliably and in an attractive manner, they might take it and run with it. Which brings us to the fourth problem, which is that you either don't know how to create your own opportunities, and or you fear that you won't be able to fulfill or deliver on them. You're not deserving of greater opportunities or responsibilities. Now, why do these problems exist, right? So if we are talking about how to use your voice to take charge, we've also got to be looking at why are we not using our voice to take charge? We know what the problems are. We know what happens when you don't use your voice to take charge. But why are we not doing that? It's our birthright as human beings to use our voice, primary tool of communication, to express ourselves with clarity and with courage, with certainty, with conviction. We don't do this because over time we lose touch with ourselves. We yield to pressures to conform or to stories that are imposed upon us by the people that we look up to or we seek the approval of. Here's an example of a pressure to conform. Not a very serious one, but it gives you an idea. When I was in the 6th grade, I sat down next to Ryan Wedmore, whom I had never met, and then we became friends. And it was school hadn't started yet. It was orientation day or something in Martha Vlieger's 6th grade homeroom class. I don't think that my voice had changed, but instinctively we sat down next to one another and we're like, hey, what's up, dude? Yo, yeah. Changing our voice to conform to some ideal of what we thought that we should be to come across in a certain way. So perhaps you hang out with people who speak with no certainty, no conviction. It's cool for them to be apathetic. Enemy number one, vocal fry. You hang out around a lot of people who talk like this or who make statements as questions. You're probably going to do that. This is understandable because in our hardware, the hardware and the software of this sack of meat and water and electrical impulses, not being included in the tribe meant death, lack of safety, lack of security. So there's big, powerful instincts that are driving us to conform. Or somebody says, hey, you're too loud. Shut up. Be more quiet. Nobody wants to hear you. You sound stupid. That's a dumb idea. We shrink back. You speak more quietly, more meekly. We have a thought, we have an idea, we have something to say, and we don't say it. Another reason that these problems exist is because of distraction and distortion from poison inputs. Poison inputs could be something like cheap dopamine sources that act like sedatives, such as excessive social media consumption or frankenfoods, foods that are not created with natural ingredients or ingredients that have been so convoluted that our body has no idea how to process them. This gets into our gut, into our digestion. The gut is our second brain. You feel something in your gut, that's intuition. Well, if this gets distorted, this is a deep connection to yourself, to that higher universal consciousness that gives us information, gives us ideas, connects us with ourself. Well, if your brain is fried, the neurotransmitters are depleted and wires are getting crossed from spending all day scrolling, and you're filling your gut with toxic sludge, of course you're not going to be able to focus. Of course you're not going to be able to get in touch with what you want and then get it out there. Another reason is because we are totally disconnected from our tribes. We've got distraction and distortion from poison inputs, and then disconnection from tribe. Human beings are social creatures, but we are more isolated than ever, and we are trapped in negative feedback loops. When you have a tribe, you can go out and make more things happen. You have a team. You have a safety net. You get exposure to new ideas. You have trusted friends whose skill sets are complementary to yours. They're your weaknesses, they have strengths. You work together, you make something happen. You're having a rough day, they can console you. Using your voice is intimately human. And so the further away that we get from what it is to be human, from ideal, from optimal human experience, the harder it's going to be to use your voice. And ultimately what this looks like is that we have to unlearn what's unnatural in order to get back in touch with our most powerful selves. This is self-actualization, and there's many ways to do this. It's what mastery of all crafts lead to. One of my favorite quotes from Miyamoto Musashi is that if you know one thing, something along these lines, if you know one thing, you know 10,000 things. When you start understanding through action and through doing, through creating, through transformation, that you have the power to enact change, then you start to realize, oh, I can say what I want. It's okay to speak up. It's okay to be loud. It's okay to say what I want to say. It's okay if I put myself out there and I get shot down, or if I put myself out there and it goes great, it's not the end of the world. So I speed this process up for people by teaching them how to command a room, by commanding themselves through finding and freeing their literal voice, their figurative voice, and then by reframing their relationship to themselves and the world. When you know the voice, for example, really know it intimately and you study it, then you know 10,000 things. Then you know you have the framework, the skills, the identity, the mindset, the belief to go and learn how to transform your body, to go and learn a new skill that's going to help you move forward. When I say there's many ways to do this, all skills, all crafts are just gateways to self-actualization. Fitness, music, not just learning how to sing, but studying music, learning a difficult role, and then executing it. Now, on the other side of this, right, we begin down this path. We start learning how to take charge using our voice. What becomes possible? All right, well, your voice is unshakable. It's commanding. It's attractive. It's totally authentic. And you're fully present with yourself. You're fully present with others. And you are spontaneous and relevant in your communication. You listen to yourself on recording and you go, whoa, I like that. In the singing world, for example, I believe, because this has been my own experience, I've also had the complete opposite experience where I'm like, oh, that sucks. But when things are going well, you should be your own favorite singer. You should be your favorite performer of the rep that lights you up. And you should believe that you are the best in the world for that rep. That doesn't mean it removes, or rather, that does not come with the zero-sum game. I have to, if somebody else has, then I don't have. There are infinite opportunities. Believing that there's not means that you are giving somebody else the power to validate your own worth. So just because somebody is performing this rep that I believe that I'm the best at or whatever, it doesn't mean that I am worth less or that my skills or my talent is any less because they have this opportunity. You remove yourself from that way of measuring. Helps you to detach and have a more healthy relationship with this pursuit of craft. Make it more internal, more self-validating. The next possibility is that you have total clarity into what you offer, and you know how to tell your story in a way that is compelling. Next, you courageously take relentless action towards accomplishing your mission. You're not afraid, or you are afraid. That's what courage is. Courage is what you do, is action that you take in the face of fear. You feel fear, you acknowledge it, and then you move through it. You create and you share because creation is an invitation to connect. So what if somebody says you're dumb, or this is foolish, or that's never going to work, etc.? Or nobody shows up, nobody engages, whatever. Put it out there. Do it. The fourth possibility here is that you not only create your own opportunities and you have total confidence in them, you over deliver on these opportunities that you have created because you have a high degree of trust with yourself. Now, what do we have to do in order to bridge this gap between those problems that we're facing and this what could be, these possibilities? There's three things. First, we've got to find and free the literal voice. Oftentimes, if you get really clear on your messaging, your value proposition, which we're going to get to in a second, and you have this bias towards action, you have deep-rooted conviction, right? It's conviction that is a major linchpin here. With conviction comes courage. With conviction comes that emotional magnetism that helps you to express, that your voice helps you to express through your voice that's so irresistible. But, and I work with them every single day, even if you have those things, you might still kind of talk nasally. You might still have some bad vocal habits. You might improperly articulate because you're still a human and it can get messy in this sack of meat and water and electricity. Your mindset might need some tuning. You still might not be taking some action. Your intention might be such that you're still seeking validation. Your stakes might not be high enough. There could be there likely is another gear of expression, of emotion, of vocal discovery when you tap into your subtext and your stakes. There might be many more gears, many more shades, many more colors that can be available to you when you explore and then start implementing and take control of all the different types of resonance that your body has inside of it. Finding and freeing the literal voice is the first thing that gets covered in any tonality training or any commanding a room training or any commanding a room workshops, because once you get exposed to the self that uses this authentic and real voice, then it creates a delta between who you've been and who you could be. So the next thing that we have to do is uncover and craft your value proposition, your story. Use Socratic questioning and Socratic thinking to get to the truth of what you're saying and feeling and wanting. And what this does is it creates a foundation for you to lean on when you feel fear or anxiety around putting yourself out there. And it also helps you to get crystal clear on the value that you offer and the power that you have. And when you get crystal clear on that, then you start to see, you really can't help but see that it's an injustice to the world for you not to offer yourself and your creative efforts to it. And then the next thing that we do is we create a bias towards action. This is shortening the feedback loop between idea and execution. Remember, you get an idea, it's not just your idea. Somebody else is receiving that same idea. Take action on it and be first to market. Be the first mover. One of the best ways, the most powerful, again, want to get to the holistic and most non-costly, non-draining way. If we can get to a way of being where all of this creates a cup that continually fills itself instead of draining it, we increase our power and our vibration by orders of magnitude. So removing the perception of seriousness, around these efforts and starting to create and execute and implement from a state of play while simultaneously maintaining a high standard. Major key when it comes to that cup that fills itself. And this is also important because you develop the discipline to not only do what you say you're going to do, but then be consistent in your efforts while embodying the ideal that excellence is fun. And when you have these things in place and you open your mouth to speak and you are connected to a source of ideas and creativity and opportunity that is vast and powerful and essentially limitless, how could you not take charge? Every time that you open your mouth to speak, you are using your voice to take charge, because you will have the clarity and the courage and then the conviction to go forth and get exactly what you want faster than you ever thought possible, and bring people with you, invite them to come with you, instead of having it all be a zero-sum game where you must get so that others cannot have. If others have, you cannot get. It all goes together. Done correctly, and this is what we do in tonality training workshops and command a room workshops, this creates positive feedback loops so that you are leveling yourself up, getting in touch with your most powerful version of yourself, building a tribe, creating opportunities, and ultimately bending reality to your will. So, handful of awesome free resources on all of this stuff. There is the ebook by the same name as the podcast, The Sound of Leadership. Highly recommend you grab that. It's at whatever about section, wherever you are listening to this or watching. The 3 Pillars to Commanding a Room, it's a guide, also goes a little bit more in depth onto things we've covered here. And then some masterclasses and some recordings of me working one-on-one with some clients and some students to find and free their natural voice. All right, y'all. Go forth and speak boldly.